Hello everyone and welcome back to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy. Today we have a Pauper match for you. It's going to be Cycle Storm versus Boros Synth Gates. On the left we have Jack playing his Cycle Storm deck. We've seen Jack on the channel a couple times in the past. This deck is based all around cards with cycling and two other cards, Songs of the Damned, which gives you mana for each creature in your graveyard, and Reaping the Graves, which returns target creature from your graveyard to your hand. And this is one of the very few cards left in the format that has Storm because it doesn't automatically win you the game. So you have all these cards go into the graveyard. You want to cast things like Cabal Ritual and Dark Ritual to get your mana up. Once you have Drannith Stinger in play, you are cycling other cards and you're bringing them back with the Reaping the Graves. You're dealing 1 damage to your opponent with each of these, and eventually they will die because you're just drawing so many cards, you're making so much mana, you're just churning through the deck, and once you cycle 20 cards, it's game over. But there is a secondary win condition in Horror of the Broken Lands, which whenever you cycle or discard, it gets +2/+1. So if you can turn this guy sideways after a turn of just churning through your deck, you will probably just crack him for 20 all at once. On the other side of the board, we have Muxus playing his Boros Synth Gates deck. Synth standing for Synthesizer. This is just another version of the Boros Experimental Synthesizer list that has been going around recently. This card being absolutely insane with things that can bounce it back to hand like Glinthawk and Core Skyfisher. This has a bunch of the other white weenie cards that we saw in our last Boros list, like Seeker of the Way and Thraben Inspector, but it is much more artifact-based, being able to bounce or sacrifice things like Ichor Wellspring and Spare Supplies, and also having just a bunch of damage in Galvanic Blast and Lightning Bolt. This deck just wants to turn things sideways and generate as much advantage with its artifacts as possible. In order to deal with larger creatures, it also runs 3 Journey to Nowhere. So enough about those decks, let's get into the match. We see Jack starting off with Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual into the boy. Horror of the Broken Lands. Turn 1, no lands in play. Just a huge flex from Jack. So this is a 4/4 on its own. Hard to deal with for Muxus. Can't get rid of it turn 1 with a Lightning Bolt or anything like that. So we just see a Gate being played. And then we see a Great Furnace. One of the really fun interactions. We're seeing, looks like 4 damage here. A Lightning Bolt. No, this is 5 damage from Muxus, dealing all sorts of damage. We see a cycled Street Wraith to give it +2/+1. But that only makes it a 6/5, and that is going to be enough lethal damage to kill the Horror. Jack in a pretty tough position now. Finally does have a land on board, at least. It looks like that's a swamp. He's just going to pass turn. Oh, no, he's not. Just kidding. And Ash Barrens is going to go and get him a basic land of his choice, Ichor Wellspring from Muxus. Now, Muxus playing the Gate package here. I forgot to talk about that. These gates coming in, getting to name opposite colors. So basically, each of these are just tapped red-white lands. But the big deal is the Basilisk Gate, which is going to give target creature +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of gates you control. So it can turn one of these white weenies into just a huge threat. Can only activate as a sorcery, so you can't use it as a blowout combat trick, but still extremely good. We see Muxus just churning through his enchantments here. Play that Ichor Wellspring, bounced it back a hand with a Glinthawk. Boros Synthesizer coming into play, bounced with the Core Skyfisher. Synthesizer coming back down, getting land drops off the top of the deck. 3 mana is going to get the Inspiring Overseer, getting to draw a card. 2/1 in the air. Jack does have the a new boy in play, the new Horror of the Broken Lands. I think he got to play a Cabal Ritual last turn. Since he has more than 7 cards in the grave, it did make 5 mana. Crashing in, no blocks declared. Maybe not the best choice, Muxus. We're seeing +2/+1, a Dark Ritual, and +6/+3. Is that game? With the blowout, Jack steals game 1. We're on to game 2. That was quite the blowout because Horror does not have trample, so if Muxus had declared blocks with his Inspiring Overseer, that would have gone a very different way. But Jack being able to squeak out game one here. Thraben Inspector coming into play. On Muxus' side, getting that clue. Ichor Wellspring, drawing an extra card. Attack for 1. Play a tapped land. Go. We're seeing 2 cycles from Jack at the end of turn. An Ash Baron cycle is going to go and get a mountain. Maybe he's deploying the Draneth Stinger here for 2 mana. Although that might not be the best course of action for Jack, as Muxus does have quite a bit of removal, and this guy's only a 2/2. Basically died to everything that Muxus has as far as removal is concerned. Core Skyfisher coming in, bouncing that Ichor Wellspring. Just crashing in for 1. Didn't find another land. Couple of cycles from Jack. I think he's got 4 creatures in the grave now. Looks like there's a Mystical Teachings in Jack's hands that can go and get him any instant, or a card with flashback, or a card with flash, not flashback. It has flashback. We're seeing a ton more cycling, paying some life with these Street Wraiths to draw extra cards. Does the Horror have cycling too? It does, which makes it even better. We're seeing a Lotus Petal in hand. Jack holding on to the Lotus Petal as it does contribute to the storm count if he wants to start going off with Reaping the Graves. A Synthesizer shows a Glinthawk. Glinthawk comes into play, showing another Synthesizer. Exiling the Journey to Nowhere, having no targets, is just going to go to exile, and we're going to see another gate come into play tapped. And Muxus is trying to close out the game with these weenies. I don't believe he has the damage gate in play yet, the Basilisk gate. I'm not seeing that art on the field. Just the other 2, the Citadel and the Cliff Gate. All right, it looks like Jack has decided this is my time. This is my turn. We see the Lotus Petal come down. Reaping the Graves is going to add at least 6 mana to Jack's mana pool. 2 spells, Storm Count 2, Storm Count 3, Mystical Teachings. Now this card does cost a bunch in 4 mana, but with that Reaping the Grave, or the Songs of the Damned, he's going to go find a second Songs of the Damned. So he's down 3, he's up 6. I'm just guessing he has 6, he might have 7. Jack doing all sorts of math on his little notepad there. We got another Mystical Teachings in hand, but he would have to crack the Lotus Petal to make that happen. We see a Cabal Ritual. It's going to add down 2, up 5, so add 3. Red mana getting tapped. There's the Stinger. Now if Muxus does have the Galv Blast. What is that card? We're seeing the Galv Blast in response to, I think that's Reap. So Reaping is going to pull back quite a few cards. So Stinger, Mystical. I think that his storm count is at least 5, maybe 6 right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he's pulling back 7 creatures. All of these creatures with cycling. So if there's another Stinger, this could be the game. We're seeing another Mystical Teachings getting another Reaping the Graves. Interesting. So only 1 card in hand, but he's got a ton of mana in his mana pool, so he must have had 14 minus a bunch. And then he went up a bunch. Very difficult to keep track when it's going this fast. Basically, Jack doing his thing. Cycling like crazy here, drawing extra cards. But right now he's not presenting a lethal threat. He does have the Horror in his hand, but he can't Alpha Strike him here. I think he's generating a ton of extra mana. Some of these cards that he's casting are things like Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual off the top. Not running out of gas. And we know he has Reaping the Graves again. So he might go for it here. Basically, if Jack can find a win condition at this point, he has run away with the game. Muxus is tapped out. No real answers. So all these cards that we can see in Jack's grave right now are the creatures in his grave. He actually has just off screen non-creature spells. So if he casts Reap here. So there's Songs of the Damned. He's going to get that much mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think. That's going to go to the other pile. We're going to see Reap. Mux is checking his phone. Doing some math. Pulls them all back. And there's the stinger. And we're pretty close to the end of the game here. So now when Jack starts to cycle, he's going to be dealing 1 damage to Muxus every time he cycles. And there is a chance that Jack can fizzle here, but it is so small. Because he's going to be drawing into extra cards here. He just needs to make sure that maybe he reaps 1 more time. But he's going to see at least 10 extra cards. But we know he's reaped twice. Another Dark Ritual. He's just hitting more and more accelerants to make sure that he doesn't run out of mana. 2 of these cards are Street Wraiths, so he can just pay some life. I don't think he's near lethal yet, but he has cycled quite a few times, and he's taken some beats from Muxus. They're talking about something. We're seeing some more cycling being done. Another Dark Ritual, adding some mana. Counting it up. He just needs to make sure. I think he just hit his Reap. Or maybe the Songs of the Damned. I feel like he's not even close to running out of mana. Oh, all right. So that must have been another Reap, and that is going to be the game because he had more than 10 creatures, and if he's just going to do it again, then that's way more than 20 life. So there you have it. Combo is alive and well in the Pauper format, and sometimes can just run right over the top of one of the best decks in the format. Just a little bit too slow, or just didn't have the right resources to deal with Jack's cycling monster. Thanks for watching. Please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you want to see more of this content in the future. We have a bunch more of these on the channel, so go check out our backlog to see some other premium content. If you're curious about a deck you saw played here, the deck lists are always in the description of the video below. Thanks as always to Spellhold Games for letting us play at their store, and we'll see you next time for some more Magic content on Tuesday Night Legacy. Bye!